So Murder Drones episode 5 came out a few days ago, and it was once again not what I was expecting. I thought we were going to have a much more lore-focused episode with it taking place in the past and all, and while we did still get that to some extent, it didn't go as heavy on the lore route that I thought it would, and probably many others thought it would as well. Many things were still spontaneous, and we were already kind of thrown into the mix of things without much explanation. And while I wasn't expecting them to just vomit exposition throughout the video and explain away everything, it still seems like watching the video only raises more questions than answers. A big one of mine is, what happened here? Why are all these drones already paralyzed by the time the video starts? It also went in the direction I had a feeling it would go in, whereas the past was being shown by some means in the present, and those means were Uzi and the gold bug peeking into N's memories. I wasn't really sure if Uzi was going to play a part in the episode, but I had a feeling that she would, since she is the protagonist after all, and I was right, she does. So, this episode, while not quite as crazy as episode 4 in my opinion, was still a pretty good watch, but there are some things that I want to talk about, and there are some critiques I have. So, here we go. So, overall, I liked the episode. It's Murder Drones, of course I love it, and it does have its great moments.
Crikey, what a bounding hump to ruffle!
Why are you talking like that?
But unfortunately, I think the episode suffers from some pretty big problems that I'm going to criticize. But I'll get into what I thought was off-putting and what I didn't like later. First, I want to focus on the great parts of the episode and what I personally like. So, here we go. So first off, I just want to point out some of my favorite moments from the episode. A lot of these were just really goofy and random moments, and I love them for it. I've always appreciated Murder Drones and its comedy, and while there's an argument to be made if the show is too comedic for its own good, I still think that the haha funnies in this show are great.
Grab it. Just grab it. Grab it. Intimidating glare.
Even if they're just really dumb moments like Uzi making sure that past N knows she's tall, and then getting interrupted by Khan.
Giddy up.
Okay, you kinda seem like an evil ghost witch, though.
Oh, I am a ghost witch. And I'm tall. Dad! Get out of it!
Whoa!
Important hacking going on.
Okay. You've just never had friends over before.
Not a sleepover.
Or in this scene, where Tessa torments Jay with every employer's nightmare, tales of paid time off and union negotiations. And in Jay's company-obsessed workaholic brain, the idea of humane treatment of employees is so infuriating that she resorts to biting into this chain in an animalistic fury until she eventually breaks it.
It wants paid time off to attend union negotiations.
This is an unrelated layoff!
On top of this scene being incredibly ridiculous and goofy, it also perfectly encapsulates the reaction the suits have in real life when they can't treat their employees like less than human machines that only exist to work tirelessly until they wither away. And also, the fact that Tessa's parents think that the correct way to discipline their daughter and her sentient robot friends is to quite literally bound her with chains in an isolated room was absolutely baffling to me. I know it's a fake show, but I mean, holy shit! Or this scene here at the beginning, when N once again proves that he's smarter than the vast majority of horror movie protagonists. Or this scene.
Tessa, remember, you didn't have to. You didn't have to.
Like, geez, Tessa, just let the girl finish her damn sentence. It reminds me of the part in Has Been Hotel where Alistair can't finish his hello because Charlie keeps shutting the door on him. I mean, it's rude to interrupt people. Why does no one respect that? I also love this scene here when Jay grabs this gun. The label is awesome. Like, seriously, gun nerds, you seriously don't need to write an essay naming every model, make, production date, part, and attachment on every gun you see just because you know a lot about guns. Yes, it's a Colt Navy 1851 revolver, but it's also a revolver. It shoots bullets. That's all we need to know. It's dumb little moments like these that I think give Murder Drones part of its charm. It can nail its horror when it wants to, but the over-the-top and random moments of the funny are just delightful. And as I've said in the past, I can't help but get a big goofy smile on my face when I watch this show that I just can't drop for the entire episode's runtime. Speaking of horror, this episode obviously has its creepy moments, and they're just as awesome as the funny ones. Like when Uzi first physically intervenes with the past to interact with N. As this bird's shadow in the lightning strike changes to the Solver's symbol, the way its limbs snap around and you hear its bones break, paired with the music as it stands up to reveal the Solver eye, it's awesome. It's phenomenally eerie.
Ugh, made the tag when I was 8. Shut up.
The first Eldritch Sin scene, the Sin scene in the ballroom. This scene where V has strung up another monster drone with a lot of extra goop in preparation for N and Uzi's arrival. And then a little later when her hand turns into a claw that looks like something straight out of Resident Evil. It's all so eerie, I love it. This episode has some exceptionally great scary moments in it, and I wish I could go over it all, but that'd take too long, and nobody would want to listen to me recap the story instead of just watching the episode themselves. Also, Sin. Sin is awesome. So, I don't know what others saw in Did You Miss Me that I didn't, but the people that drew the conclusion that Sin is the absolute solver appear to be right. She isn't infected by the solver, she isn't a program in the solver, she is the solver. It's apparent from the moment she appears, Sin is no ordinary drone. No, she's a nightmare fuel eldritch monstrosity, and she makes it clear to everyone right from the start.
Stab. You seem upset, Big Brother N. Perhaps you'd like to attend the gala with me. Light sip.
And a little bit later, after she's introduced, it's clear that nobody is comfortable with Sin being around. Jay apparently locks her in the basement.
Oh, who'd you bring with you?
Seems Jay forgot to let me out of my basement timeout again.
Yet, here you are.
Annoyed expression.
You guys are locking her up?
And
Tessa's mom immediately demands that Sin is removed from the area and even refers to her as the Antichrist.
Oh, Christ almighty! I said this one out of my sight! I still can't follow simple orders.
They are not broken. We can no longer be thrown out.
Did that little Antichrist...
I told her to say that!
The only one who's comfortable with Sin is N. I mean, he defends her to no end. He even gets himself cast out into the rain for it to be pecked by birds.
Go get it, goobers! Ow! Waddle, we were buddies!
Prometheus was punished by the gods for giving the gift of knowledge to man. He was cast into the bowels of the earth and pecked by birds.
And even once the bad things start to go down, he still believes that sin means no harm.
Sin's gonna massacre the gala.
Who? Our Sin? Nah, she's cool.
It also makes me wonder if Tessa introduced Sin with the knowledge that she was actually, this thing, or if she hid her true nature away from Tessa and everyone else for the sake of first impressions, or if she was just like this all along and they just put up with it. I also like how they did Sin's mannerisms, from the way her limbs appear broken, having to prop her head up with her hands because it's always tilting to the side, giving her a really zombie-like appearance, as well as the way she vocalizes her actions and emotions, which I just think is really goofy.
Light sip. Climbing. Crisscross applesauce. Sheepish nod. Shuffle. 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 Well-timed giggle.
Not only does it establish that there's certainly something wrong with her, but in a way, it also makes her kinda cute. I mean, she's an evil eldritch creature, yeah, and she tried to kill N, and I assume successfully has in the past, according to the basement findings, so she's already an irredeemable monster, but I don't know, there's something about her in the first few minutes that make her seem so innocent, almost. And the relationship between N and Sin, where N does his best to defend her at every turn, it's just cute. I don't know.
Don't give me those eyes.
Giggle. I am so naughty. The flesh demands invitation.
We'll ask Tessa, okay? If not, movie night.
Sheepish nod.
But then things start going tits up, and Sin goes from a slightly cute but also creepy broken drone to the harbinger of nightmares in a few short seconds. It's awesome. Sin is awesome. The scenes she's in are awesome. And while it's up to you to decide whether you think they did the character justice after hyping her up since introducing her back in December, in my personal opinion, I think they did a pretty good job with her character. She's freaky, she's malicious, and she's monstrous, and she's just awesome. Now, there's more I could talk about, but I kind of want to save on time, and this video is probably already long, and I don't want to run it super long like my video on episode 4 where I pretty much talked about nothing, so I'm going to go ahead and get into the negative stuff now. Now, like I said earlier, I like the episode overall. I think it's a good episode. But as a whole, it feels lacking. While I wasn't expecting the show to exposition dump at the beginning like episode 1, I still thought there'd be some build-up to the events that happened. But no. By the time the first mansion scene starts, it's clear that whatever happened has already happened. These drones are all frozen and displaying error codes, and there's no explanation as to why. Why are the drones in the ballroom completely functional, but the others are in this paralyzed state? The only explanation I have is Absolute Solver doing Absolute Solver shenanigans. Even V is paralyzed like this, and there's no reason as to why or how she got that way. Why is she standing in front of the basement? Did the solver place her there on purpose? Who knows? This is a problem that persists throughout the episode. So much stuff could have happened or could have been explained, but it's just not. Again, not saying there needs to be a reason for everything. You don't need to vomit out exposition. But I would have liked something to go on, something to work with instead of having to guess. There are points where they build up to something and then cut away from it for the sake of suspense, except that suspense doesn't pay off because we never get the conclusion.
You didn't have to see this.
Now, whatever happened to Tessa here? Who knows? But since she appears in the present, she obviously didn't die. That's all you need to know. Again, it's a shame they cut away from it so early because it follows the same old cliche of building up to something big and then cutting away from it for the sake of suspense building and to make people go, wow, I wonder what happens next. I wonder what happened. Except we don't get to know what happens next because this is the last time we see past Tessa in the episode, so we never figure out what happened to her after the screen cuts away. Also, the whole episode is centered around N needing to get into the basement. Uzi is interfering with the past in an attempt to get N where he needs to go, and he doesn't get into the basement until 13 minutes in. There's only 6 minutes left in the runtime by the time he gets into the basement. But once we're finally in, what am I looking for? This is basically just Doll's House again from episode 3. Yeah, sure, the site is grotesque and twisted, but it's really just a lair for theories. We see a dead V, J, and N, along with mechanical wings, the acid canister tails and Monster Uzi's tail, the pincers that the solver uses with its eldritch forms, etc. But what's the takeaway? The basement is supposed to be where N needed to go, but he finally gets there and it's mostly just a spooky sight. There isn't much to go off or take away. Like I said before, it feels lacking. All the build-up, but no payoff. Let's take Doll for example. Doll shows up after Uzi and N unlock the basement. She and Uzi fight for the gold bug, and then she leaves. Why? It's not explained why it took her this long to attempt to get it. Since Doll is fighting Uzi for the gold bug, I'm assuming this is probably the thing that she was looking for that she mentioned in episode 3. So on top of me being incorrect about the bugs in this video, I also have to wonder why she didn't just drop in and attempt to take the bug in episode 4, since she appears when Uzi finds it. If this is what she was after the whole time, then why didn't she take the opportunity to get it when it was revealed instead of waiting? And if she was waiting for a moment when Uzi would be distracted, then it was probably a pretty dumb idea to announce her presence in front of Khan and then make an explosive entrance instead of just teleporting in and swiping it. But aside from taking the bug, what purpose did Doll really serve in the episode? It's revealed later that she wanted to give the bug to Tessa and Jay in exchange for them taking her to wherever they plan on going, but that's at the very end, and the episode ends on a cliffhanger. Doll really didn't have any reason to be in the episode, and all she did was come in like a bat out of hell, steal something, and then run away. What was the point?
Mila.
And my biggest complaint with the episode by far is that they cut off the memory segment so early after so little has actually been explained and uncovered. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the video. There's only a minute left in the runtime when the memory cuts off, and if they didn't want to run their video into 20 minutes and beyond, then they didn't have to, and they didn't, and that's fine. But I can't help but ask, what was the point then? What was it all for in the end? Because it cuts away so early. By the time the memory cuts off, what was the takeaway? What was the conclusion? What did we learn? Like, the most we learn is that Sin reset N's memories and N saves V. V is saved. They like each other, that's great. But other than that, what was the conclusion? There really was none. It cuts away too early. We never find out what happened to Tessa, Jay, Sin, the humans, the mansion, or even what happens to N and V after the screen cuts away. And also, the basement as well. The whole episode is centered around N needing to get into the basement, and after 13 minutes of a 19-minute video, we finally get there, and there's really nothing but speculation. There's nothing definitive. There's no payoff. It's not a satisfying conclusion. And it sucks because we don't know if there will be another episode set in the past again. This could be the only one. I don't know. It just sucks. It feels like a little bit of a cop-out, kinda. And it just kinda sucks, and I don't like it, so. Also, going back to the ending, because I mentioned it earlier, In my opinion, it feels like the ending was only made to get all the main characters into one place for the start of the next episode, because this deal that Doll apparently made with Tessa and Jay is completely out of nowhere, and while I'm sure it's probably going to be explained a bit more in the next episode, maybe, it still just doesn't really make sense. If the gold bug is what Doll has been looking for, presumably since before Tessa arrives, because she alludes to Uzi that she's looking for something like a solid 40 to 50 seconds before Tessa even first appears on screen, then why give it up? Was this anticipated? Did Doll use her absolute solver magic to communicate with Tessa in the shuttle heading to Copper 9 to make this deal? Or is this not actually what Doll was looking for, but rather just a means to get what she truly wants? And also, she's a worker drone. Why didn't Jay or Tessa just kill her on site like they did with this guy? And how the hell did Uzi, N, and V find Jay and Tessa when, as far as we knew, they didn't even know they were on the planet? There's no implication throughout episode 4 or this episode that they even knew Jay and Tessa were on the planet, let alone their location on the planet. And they look like they're back at Camp 98.7, so how did they know they would be there? So, that's about all I have to say, and even though I was pretty critical of this episode, I still liked it overall. I think it was a good time, I think it was a fun watch, I enjoyed watching it, and I still think it was a good episode overall, just lacking in some departments. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. So, even though it has its issues, which I mean they all do, nothing's perfect, but even though it has its problems, I still like the episode overall, and I still absolutely love Murder Drones. This hasn't dampened my perception of the show or anything. I still think that Murder Drones is an insanely interesting and unique show made by insanely talented and lovely people, and it's a special show too, because animation like it doesn't come around very often anymore. So, with all that being said, thanks for watching. I'm going to leave it here. I did have a section planned where I was going to read off some of the thoughts that I hope that the show will do later on in time, but my voice is really starting to hurt from reading off this script for so long, so I'm just going to leave screenshots of my script of these thoughts so that you can pause and read them if you want to after this, because my throat is really starting to hurt. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end here, especially thanks to you, because that means that you took time out of your day to watch this video until the end, and for that, I thank you. And with that being said, that's about it. Bye.